whole crowd bouncing, talking about the king of kings of what we call Mountain Mover.
What's good, everybody? It's your boy, Chris Crawley, founder of Desire for Iron Fitness, where determination meets action. Follow me on Instagram at FromFatty2NattyBodybuilder. Today, I got a real special treat for you. A great friend of mine. We met at the August NPC show in Indianapolis, and we've become friends ever since. And he won his IFBB pro card that day. So it was really cool meeting him and just being there for his little celebration. Brad Killion. Brad, thank you so much for being on board today.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for the invite.
So do you want to give the audience a little bit about yourself, what you do and how you came into bodybuilding and the like?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like was mentioned, I'm Brad Killion. I do IT for a living, and I have a beautiful wife, 3 children. They keep me busy, of course. My wife is also a competitor. She started last year. Her first time on stage was at Indiana States, where I met you, Chris. And so she's actually in the middle of prep right now and enjoying that process. And hopefully we'll follow suit and go from Indiana States to North Americans and hopefully get her pro card. So I got into bodybuilding. Well, I guess take a step back. So I was always in sports my entire life, from probably 4 or 5 years old, playing t-ball and basketball and football. And so with that, kind of lifting and working out just came along with it. I can remember probably 8th grade, my first time I lifted a free weight, right? Doing the bench press and the squats and all that good stuff. Probably wasn't doing it very well, and the form was probably terrible, and doing a lot of ego lifting at that age, of course. So, so I've always been into lifting since, like I said, probably 8th grade, and then obviously throughout high school, my sports career, and then even into college when I played a little bit of college football. So that was something I always enjoyed doing. It was just part of my everyday life. Love lifting weights, and then after kind of all that ended and no longer playing sports, I really started to catch on to the bodybuilding aspects of weightlifting. So the nutrition part of it, learning how to eat correctly to build muscle, achieve hypertrophy. And so that was something that it was a different kind of lifting, because I was used to doing a lot of powerlifting type movements for sports, because it's more explosive, like football, traditionally is. So it was kind of a shift in the way that I actually lifted, which is, trying to achieve hypertrophy and grow the muscle and have very focused workouts for different muscle groups and so forth. So that was something that was a kind of a mental change for me in the way I lifted, obviously in the way I ate. So that was a big component of that, obviously. And so I started doing the bodybuilding thing, not competitively. I did more of the bodybuilding as a lifestyle in my early 20s. And then, I had thoughts of competing at that time. I was a big Arnold Schwarzenegger fan, as probably most of us are.
Right.
I remember watching all of his Hollywood movies, and of course I knew of his his background as a bodybuilder first, right? That's kind of how he became known here in America. So he was big. I was a big fan of his, right? And loved kind of things he did, and loved his look, obviously, with the crazy little V-taper, big back, big bicep, chest, the massive chest. And he was just, to me, the perfect physique, right? And so I always enjoyed him, obviously. And so I always had kind of an interest in bodybuilding, but never really took to it until my mid-30s, or competitively, I guess I should say. So, life, work and kids and family, that kind of, that came first. And so I didn't really think about competing at that time, and didn't really know a whole lot about it, right? I think I knew a lot about bodybuilding, and I learned a lot about that online, but really didn't know a whole lot about competing. So I never really got into, or really went down that path until, like I said, later in life. So that's kind of where I first got a taste of competition.
So how long have you been competing?
Not very long. So I actually started prepping for my first show in 2019. So that was my first, I guess, actual commitment to doing competitive bodybuilding. I probably years earlier, I wanted to do it. I just wasn't where I wanted to be yet physically. And I think it was something that at that time, classic physique really wasn't around yet. It's not very old, right? So I was in the mindset of prepping for an open, being an open, in the open class. And I knew, being a taller guy, I'm 6'3", that I needed to put on even more muscle to even look the same as some of those shorter guys with the more compact frame. So I wanted to take more time to build the size up. And then classic physique came along. I'm like, hey, this is a great fit for me, right? Kind of the golden era look, the Arnold look. And so that's when I, decided I wanted to do that. So that was back in 2019, started going through hired a coach, went through kind of a full off season with him, or growth phase with him. And then we decided in January of 2020, right before COVID, that we were going to compete. Right. So, started the competition prep, and then boom, COVID hit, and things started just, getting shut down. Gyms were shutting down, competitions were being canceled, things were being pushed back. And so that was kind of a tough first competition prep that I went through. So I actually stayed committed. I actually found kind of a barn that had like weights and stuff in it, and I kept lifting at this barn, and did that, hoping that the competitions would stay. The different shows would not shut down and cancel for the year. And so I finally committed one in Wisconsin. It's actually by Shredded Cheddar Productions. It was called the NPC Brew City, there in Wisconsin. So they committed, they stayed on track. And when things started opening up, they decided to move forward with the competition. So that was my first show that I did. And it was a crazy competition prep, because even food was starting to become scarce. You couldn't find beef, you couldn't find chicken, you couldn't find rice,
right?
And those typical things we eat, right? So it was pretty difficult I was going to grocery stores, 30, 40 minutes away to find rice and beef and stuff like that. So yeah.
It definitely was a scary time I know, I think the second year of my competition was 2020, and we had the shutdowns and everything else. And I was doing prison workouts in my basement, with like push-ups with big books on my back and shit like that. It was pretty crazy. So you said you're classic physique, and we talked earlier, offline before about our like of classic physique as it brings in the golden era. So is that kind of where you want to stay classic physique throughout your career, mainly because that's the aesthetics of it all?
I do. Yeah. I've always, although, the guys that are in open on the pro stage, it's phenomenal what they're able to do. The physiques they're able to build, and the size they're able to put on is just, those type of guys are the 1% that can actually put on that type of size. Not everyone can do that. Right. And so that's something that, I'm definitely, in awe of and can appreciate. But, I think the classic look for me it's more of an achievable look. Sure. For most people. And I think also, like I said, the aesthetics, the symmetry, the small waist, right? Oftentimes in open, you see kind of that big bloated waist, and they look like they're 9 months pregnant sometimes,
Right.
And I don't like that look. It's not a look that I particularly like, and I like the classic physique. The lines, the nice lines, how they flow, and the little waist, the wide back, and it's just to me more aesthetically pleasing. To me. So
now you said your wife, and I think I met your son at Indianapolis as well. He competes too, correct?
He does. Yeah.
So he does but he does physique, and then your wife does the bikini division, if I'm not mistaken.
No, she does figure.
Okay.
Actually, crossed over this year and going to do figure and women's physique.
Okay.
So she enjoys figure, but I think she's 6'1",
Right.
and with heels, she's 6'5".
Right.
So she's like, it's just, she's like, I feel like I'm too tall for that division or for that class. And, look that they're typically looking for, it's just with her height, it just kind of, elongates everything, and so with the heels for sure. And so she feels like physique maybe, and she's put on some a good amount of muscle this past growth phase. She's probably going to step on stage a whole 10 pounds heavier than last year, which is, she's new. So her body's is responding really well, right now to muscle growth. And she hired a really good coach, and he's really in tune with her body and how it responds and what training exercises and food that she responds best to. So, she's a crossover physique. And then my son, he actually, his first competition was last year as well as my wife was. And he did men's physique.
Okay.
But he's actually taken this year off to grow, and he wants to jump into classic physique next year. So follow his dad's footsteps, I guess. So
that's awesome. Well, you mentioned obviously you have some children still underage living at home with you. What have been some of the bigger challenges for you to be able to? Because it's not an easy lifestyle, even with my kids being out of the house. I can't imagine what you're dealing with having the children at home.
Yeah, I have a 14-year-old and a 12-year-old. So they're a little bit older now. When I first got started in it, probably, like I said, about 3 or 4 years ago. It's tougher. I think kids, you're running them around, they have things going on, and, they're pretty dependent on you. So obviously, and they have different activities that they're in as well, like whether it be, my son's in marching band. My daughter's also she's in orchestra. So they play the instruments, and she's also involved in volleyball, and he's involved in some other things as well. So yeah, I think that, the normal family life and also having a career can definitely make things more difficult. I'm fortunate. I work from home. I've been working from home since 2010, I believe. Wow. So yeah, I'm in the IT industry. So it's been a blessing from that perspective, because I'm able to, essentially I can have all my meals here. I don't have to pack them and go anywhere. So it definitely helps this lifestyle, as a bodybuilder. So, but yeah, I think it's just managing your time. Obviously it's definitely, we're traveling or having to go different places. We know we're going to be away from the kitchen. We're packing meals, and, we have meal prep bags and all that good stuff. So it's definitely a lifestyle that you have to kind of ingrain into everyday life and make it part of your routine to be able to be successful. So
what were some of the biggest challenges for you to do that? Because you transitioned from more of a power lifter into a bodybuilder. It's a whole different lifestyle, as most people know. So what were the biggest challenges to transition into that way of life?
I think the biggest challenges were just, obviously the food choices, making sure that, what I'm eating is fueling my body the way it needs to be fueled for, achieving muscle growth. Right. So a lot more, it's a lot different, right? I would say it's a healthier lifestyle than powerlifting. Powerlifting, I feel like a lot of times it's a lot of, it's just about putting on weight and eating certain things to help with your lifts during that, and you're trying to get the most out of that lift, generate the most power as possible to move that weight. So it's not always, they don't always eat kind of the same as bodybuilders eat. So I think adjusting to that, I think eating more often. I eat, 6-7 times a day, depending on if it's a growth phase or a cut phase or, contest prep. That can be, difficult to make sure we have everything you need and make sure you prepare for the week. And so that's part of the organization. And you can ask my wife, I'm probably not the best at that. So she takes care of me in that aspect. But I think just make sure we have, the planning and making sure that you have the foods you need. And then of course, I think, just stick, it's a pretty mundane lifestyle.
Right.
It's pretty boring, right? It's the same foods day in and day out. And, you have to measure everything out, and it's just, so it's pretty, it's not the most exciting,
Sure.
That aspect. I love the competing. I love the training, the food part, the nutritional part is maybe not quite as, that's quite as fun. So.
Sure. Well, let me ask you this, because I know I run into this problem a lot, and the people that are watching this probably run into the same problem. Social gatherings. You're out at a social gathering. You're really damn close to your macronutrients, or maybe not even that close yet at all. You're in contest prep. There's that one person that's going to hand you a Jack and Coke and say, come on, one whiskey ain't going to kill you. How do you handle that situation cordially? Yeah.
No, it's to me, it's not that difficult for me. I'm in prep. Not to say it always was easy, but a lot of times it's a very selfish sport at times.
Sure.
Especially when it comes to contest prep, because it's very rigid. It's very strict. There's not a lot of things, because I think I've listened to one of your podcasts or before, and I remember you guys talking about this. It's it's difficult in social gatherings because a lot of times it's food and alcohol is involved, right? And that's kind of the way, especially here in Indiana. I feel like in my thing, they love their food, right? We love growing out. We love the food. I know growing up, my dad it was like 3 hot meals. It was a hot breakfast, a hot lunch, and a hot dinner. And they were always big, right? So, and a lot of fried food too.
Yeah.
So, that was, my family, I think once I kind of, as I started to get into the competitive side of bodybuilding, they started to understand that, hey, this is during these different, contest prep, this is the way it is, right? And I can't have those things, right? So, with friends, oftentimes it would be like, hey, probably won't be seeing you much during this contest prep, because a lot of my friends, they love to throw back a cold one and grill out and have fun, especially during the summertime. I feel like what I'm mostly prepping is during the summertime.
Yeah.
That's like the worst time, because everybody's outside and, having drinks by the pool, or, at the lake, or, having good food and drinks. And so that's a tough one. So I kind of just remove myself. Unfortunately, I just remove myself from the situation. So I'm not really put into that situation where I have to like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do that. But now I've been in it for a little while now. A lot of my friends, they understand that. So they know when I'm in prep, they don't even go there with me. So, yeah.
Outstanding. Thank you. I need that advice for myself, because I'm coming up 16 weeks out for my next show, and damn it, I want to eat. But it is what it is.
I think that's the hardest for me during prep. I'm eating the same foods I essentially eat in the off season. Obviously, when I'm in the growth phase, I can have, a free meal here and there, and it's not going to hurt, and obviously I love drinking wine. I love a good cab. I like margaritas. I like a good, Hefeweizen or IPA from a beer perspective. So I definitely, I enjoy alcoholic drinks. But I tend to, as I've progressed in my competitive career for bodybuilding, I've learned to kind of do it more in moderation, right? So, I know, it's something that can hinder, different things within a prep, or also in a growth phase. So it slows down protein synthesis. It can obviously increase estrogen. It can water retention, right? All these type of things that can definitely, it's IGF production out, in the liver, things like that. All those things can be hindered by alcohol, right? So growth phase, I'll be a little more free with it. But again, I try to still do it in moderation. When me and my wife want to go out for a dinner, or we're at a family event, that's something that maybe I'll partake in some, a few drinks there. But obviously during contest prep, I cut it off from the beginning, because it's just easier for me to, I could probably get away with having a drink, 16 weeks out, or even 14 weeks out. but to me, that makes it harder to to say, no, I'm not going to have that drink at 10 weeks out or 8 weeks out. So I just try to cut it off right from the start and then just get into that mode of prepping. So,
and also we don't want to know what second place tastes like. We're not sitting there kicking our ass when I get up on stage, I'm not getting up there hoping to lose. So it's one of those, why am I not going to give myself every possible chance to win? You know what I mean? That just makes the most sense. So
yeah.
You came from a powerlifting background. There's, you see in some of the newer bodybuilders, they don't want to really go for those lifts that give us the best bang for the buck, like the big three. I mean, you're not going to get big legs without squatting. You know what I'm saying? I hate squatting, but I know I need to do it because it's what gives you the best bang for your buck. Walk us through like one of your workouts. I mean, because are you still using a lot of your powerlifting stuff?
No, actually, I'm not. So I've something I've learned. There's a few guys that I follow that Joe Bennett, hypertrophy coach, John Jewett, another Olympian 212 competitor, and another guy that's pretty well known in the industry. He goes by Lift Run Bang, I think, and on Instagram. But as a bodybuilder, when we go in to go train, especially if we have, whatever split we're using, if it's push pull legs or, more of a bro split where you're lifting one muscle group, once a week, what have you, we're really trying to focus in on that muscle only, right? We're trying to focus in, as far as like concentrate on that, isolate that muscle and give the most tension, mechanical tension as possible, right? And that's what's going to cause hypertrophy and increased protein synthesis and all those things that we need to grow that muscle, right? That muscle group. So, that was a big change for me because I love hitting the heavy bench and the heavy squats and the heavy deadlifts and all those type of things. And I'm not saying you can't use those, but I've kind of started to, as I've progressed in my competitive career, I've learned that there's different choices that get more out of that exercise versus say, compound lift like squats, right? For me, being a tall guy, I'm 6'3", I'm not built very well for a squat. So I have my hip mobility isn't great. My ankle mobility isn't great either. And we think about a squat, there's a hip hinge, there's knee flexion, there's dorsiflexion, which is your ankle, right? So if you have at any point where there's something hinging or flexing, you can obviously incorporate more muscle groups, right? So if you're doing a squat, it's not just quads, it's hamstrings, it's glutes, right? For me, it's wild lower back, unfortunately. And so like, to me, I wasn't getting a lot of growth out of traditional barbell back squats.
Okay.
So what I actually, when I focused on, like say quad day, I'm doing Smith squats and I'm even doing heels elevated Smith squats. That gives me more knee flexion, right? To recruit as most muscle fibers in the quad as possible. You want as much knee flexion as possible, right?
Okay.
So if I can do that without having to then utilize the stabilizing muscles, I can isolate the quads more, right? So with the Smith squat, a Smith squat, even with heels elevated, I get way more connection with my quadriceps, and I get better pumps, and my quads are just zapped afterwards. Whereas with a barbell squat, I'd feel a back pump before I'd even feel anything in my quads. Okay. So to me, I'm trying to be more efficient and smarter about what I'm doing to make sure I'm getting the most out of that exercise. So I've started to go to different lifts to get more progress, to progress more depending on the muscle I'm trying to isolate. So a traditional leg day for me, it may be a Smith squat, it may be a leg extension, a leg press. I'll do some abductor work as well. And then I'll switch out exercises. So I'll do like a mesocycle of like say 8 weeks. And after 8 weeks, I may sub in, say something like a pendulum squat or a hack squat. To me, those back supported movements, I get way more quad activation than I would a barbell back squat. So So yeah, that's I don't actually, you probably never see me underneath a barbell squatting unless it's under on a Smith machine. So, and my legs have grown more than they ever have the past 2 years, making switch to doing those different exercises. So that's a tradition. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. That's very informative for sure. So
Yeah.
do you have anything lined up in the next year? Well, you said you're taking some time off for growth. Do you already know what shows you're planning on doing?
Yeah. So we're looking to, do another growth phase this fall, and probably work, do that up until probably December timeframe. And then January, I'm thinking about starting a prep for a pro show in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So,
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah, it's at end of May. And I was wanting to do something earlier in the year. So I could be prepping, say, start of January, and then I'd hit something in May. And that was one of the shows that I found that takes place in the May timeframe. So that's one that I'm hoping to do. I'm actually also looking at doing the Puerto Rico Pro.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's in June. So it'll be a few weeks later. I'll the Puerto Rico Pro, hopefully. So those are kind of two I'm targeting right now. But we'll see how things go. We're progressing a lot this year. I've already, I'm pretty happy with the progress I made up to this point. Right now, we're kind of in the middle of a mini cut / maintenance phase, just kind of see what came up. So we had to, I had to drop a little bit of the body fat percentage, get it down a little bit so I could see kind of what's improved. And so far, we're pretty happy with some of the changes we made, and going to give it one more final push this fall, winter timeframe, and then start looking at prepping January. So
sweet. Well, thank you so much. This has been honestly one of the most informative interviews I've done. I mean, learning a lot just listening to you over just the past 30 minutes. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you on social media to kind of see your journey and watch you kick ass?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram. My Instagram name is classicbk_IFBB pro. So that's traditionally where I post all my bodybuilding stuff. So anything that's happening in my career right now, I usually post there as far as progress pictures, things that I'm involved in. I just did a posing clinic yesterday at the American Muscle Factory, which is owned by Nathan Epler, who's also a 212 Olympian. We had a pretty good turnout. It was probably about 250 people that came out. All the different classes were represented. So I did the classic physique. Nathan Epler did the open. Jennifer Dory did bikini. She's Olympia. She won Olympia last year in bikini. Mark Anthony, he was the first men's physique Olympian. So yeah, we had a really good turnout. It was a really fun event. But yeah, usually things like that I'm involved in or working on or what have you, I usually tend to do that on Instagram. So.
Okay, sweet. Well, Brad, thank you so much. I know it's a Sunday. We want to get back to our families, but honestly, this has really been really cool. And it was an honor to meet you. And I'm really glad that we've become friends over the year. It's really been a really good experience.
Oh, thank you very much. No, Chris. Yeah, I definitely I love that we got to meet last year, and definitely enjoy everything you're doing in your bodybuilding career, and all the stuff that you're putting out there too is really great. So definitely following along, and yeah, I'll be keep looking out for the new stuff you put out. So
all right, well, mark your calendar because I have to prove something to Indiana on I'm waiting until 2025. Okay. So this year I'm doing the Mr. Cleveland with NMA where I got my pro card. 2024, good Lord willing. Wait, no, this is 2022. 2023, good Lord willing. I'm planning on doing a show with Philip Ricardo in April over in Virginia. That'll be with the INBA. Then I'm going to take 2024 off, put on some size. And after I hit the big 5-0, I'm coming back to I'm coming back to Dave's show to prove something. So hopefully you'll be there, and I'll get to flex my muscles up in the big stage again. So
if you're there, I'll be there. For sure.
All right, brother. Sounds good. God bless you, my friend.
Hey, God bless. Take care.
Take care.